Hello, triathlon enthusiasts, and welcome back to another exciting episode of T3. I'm Zach Hunsinger, joined with my awesome co-host, Carrie Ritter, and we've got a special treat for you in this episode. We're answering questions that a newbie sent us. Brad, the newbie, is a brave soul who's just signed up for his very first 70.3 triathlon. The catch? He's a complete flake and never shows up when he says he will.
That is a catch.
I don't know if he's going to show up to his race. We were going to have him as our guest twice, and he's flaked on us both times. Supposedly, he has work meetings. I guess he's not as in. He hasn't learned how to control his schedule as well as you and I have. But the real catch is he's a complete newbie to the triathlon scene. So we all remember what it was like when we took our first strokes in the water, pedaled our first miles, and experienced the thrill of our initial triathlon. Like I said, Brad won't be joining us today, so instead we'll make do by answering his questions he sent us earlier. So get ready for an informative, fun-filled conversation that's all about embracing the triathlon adventure. Let's dive right in with Brad and Carrie. So here's Brad. He's a CrossFitter, and if we all want to be like him, we can buy our Halloween costume and make sure we get our neck brace, and our vegan protein and painkillers.
Yeah, vegan protein. I didn't know that was a thing in the CrossFit community. Do I need to be doing CrossFit?
I think so. When I saw that, I was like, oh man, Carrie's gonna take issue with the satire here.
I didn't know. I didn't know that was a thing amongst CrossFitters. I thought they were all about the paleo life or something.
That's a good point. I don't know anything about CrossFitting. All I know about CrossFit is you will know who is in CrossFit because they will tell you as soon as they meet you. There's no way to get around it. So here's kind of Brad likes to go rucking, like heavy backpacks and walking around. And I think that's just the worst idea ever, because I know enough military veterans who have service-connected disabilities associated with carrying heavy backpacks around, and now their backs are all screwed up. And he's like willingly choosing to do it as a CrossFit exercise. So
good to know.
All right. Well, he's an idiot, but he does have some good questions. And Carrie, you saw a few of them in advance and thought that you related to a few of them. I certainly did. And it's funny. The first one is really something that even I looked at a few days ago. So it was pretty timely, which is, would a tri-bike versus a road bike really matter if my goal is just to finish under time limits? So this is Brad asking the question again. We got our tri-bike versus the road bike. So Carrie, what's your initial response to that question?
Well, first of all, is that AI art or did you draw this? Because that is phenomenal.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I definitely drew it 3 minutes ago. Yeah, it was tough.
Anyways,
thank you.
For your first race, you should absolutely spend at least $5,000 or $6,000 on a tri-bike. Like, there's just really no other way around it. That's the only way you'll ever complete the race. So,
so you're a yes to the
no, absolutely. I'm 100% kidding. I own a tri-bike now.
Oh my God, you completely fooled me.
I said I was hoping Brad would come on here so I could do stuff like this directly to them. And just,
Yep.
But
yeah, Brad sucks. We get it, but let's just assume it's a reasonable adult who can show up according to his schedule.
Anyways, like I still kind of go back and like, should I just sell my tri-bike? Because I love riding my road bike. It's much more comfortable for me. Like I just feel at home on that thing. I think we've talked about that in the past. My opinion, you absolutely do not need a tri-bike. Like if you need any proof of that, look at Taylor Knibb, what she's been doing. I mean, she crushed Daniela Reef and everyone else at Collins Cup on a road bike, right? Like, you don't need a tri-bike to be a finisher, and you don't need it to be successful. That said, if you have been in the game for a few years and you want to kind of bump up your capabilities a little bit, you can go spend a bunch of money and buy some speed. As long as you're mindful of the course, sometimes the tri-bike isn't going to give you much benefit over a road bike, and you're detracting from some comfort level sometimes. So if you're just starting out, don't go buy a tri-bike. Just get whatever you can ride, whatever fits you, and enjoy it.
Well, I think you're completely wrong. I disagree. but I think that's I think it's great that we have both of our perspectives here.
Yeah, it's good to have like a true perspective and then one that's just totally incorrect. So let's hear your incorrect one,
my
and
incorrect.
we can delve in.
Oh, yeah, I get it. It is a financial burden without a doubt to get a tri bike, and so I'm cognizant of that. And if it was like you're doing a sprint race, maybe even an Olympic, then okay, I think a road bike is fine. And in fact, if that was going to be your first race, I certainly encourage you to just do the road bike, get the feel for a triathlon. You'll get the bug, and then you buy the tri bike. And I think that's kind of what you were saying. But when you're hitting 70.3 and further, which Brad is, when I look around at the course, I don't see many road bikes out there. And when I do see them, they are way behind and getting passed.
I will say one key thing. So actually, I did my first half Ironman. Actually, I think I've done two on my road bike that I sold. Um, Honestly, I put it in a perfectly fine bike split, and it was like if I had my tri bike, I don't think it would be significantly different. The key difference is the fit and
Yeah.
aero bars.
So you
Like
put
aero
aero
bars
bars on the
on a
road
road
bike.
bike, yeah, like that. Like if you don't have aero bars, then yeah, you're gonna see a huge difference between that and aero bars on a tri bike. But if you have aero bars on a road bike, aero bars on tri bike, especially as a beginner, the difference I think is fairly negligible when you think of you're going to spend an extra 1,500 minimum to go
Oh,
get the
it's
tri bike.
way more than that. I don't even think
I mean,
you're gonna
and
get
from jumping from road bike to tri bike, like you can get a road bike in the 500s, you can get a
well.
tri bike in the low twos.
Well, let me ask, Brad. Do you have a road bike already, or do you need to buy one?
Are you going to
I
mimic his
don't.
voice?
Yeah, I don't have one. I need to buy a road bike. No,
Why did you
actually,
sound like my grandmother?
because he is a grandmother. I think I think he does. I'm pretty confident he already has a. Well, I'm 100% confident he has a bike. I don't know what kind of bike it is. It's probably. I think he bought a gravel bike recently. And I mean, I have basically two bikes. I have my tri bike and then a gravel bike, which I use as my everyday sort of rider through the city. If it's like mine, I mean, it's the cheapest gravel bike I could get, and it's heavy and a lot slower. I pedal a lot harder. I think the form is a lot more painful on my legs. My knees hurt a lot more than on the tri bike. Now the biggest difference is I have had a professional fitting on my tri bike, and I have no fittings professionally on the gravel bike. So I'm sure that has a factor. So no matter what you get, you definitely need to get that professional fitting, whether it's the cheap $100 eyeball test or the one where they're putting straps on you and sensors and seeing you in the computer. I think you need to have that no matter what. And if you're going to buy a tri bike, do it now at the start of your training so that you get
Yep.
used to it throughout. I guess probably any bike really. I don't. That was one of the best pieces of advice I got. So I was in the same when I was first starting. Get a road bike, get a tri bike. I had the gravel bike, and that was it. And the guy said, "Look, are you going to be riding in the Peloton anytime? Are you going to be racing on the road?" And the answer was no. So he said, "Going to get a tri bike." So that's what I did. The issue to me isn't the tri bike versus the road bike, although there's tons of research about it. And I did have some pulled up. And I think my interpretation of the literature is that it agrees with me that you should get a tri bike instead of a road bike.
The
um,
If the question is which one is faster, then absolutely. If the question is from a human perspective, if this is your first 70.3, should you get a tri bike or a road bike? 100 times out of 100, I'm saying get a road bike and get $75 clip-on bars and see if you even like it. Otherwise,
it's just so
you're.
fun to ride a tri bike. I feel like you're
I
betraying
hate it.
us.
I hate it.
Oh my!
It feels
There's
like a task. I love riding my road bike. I call it now. My gravel
yeah.
bike with road tires. Love that thing, dude. I would ride that for days. The tri bike, I'm like, excited to finish the leg of the bike ride. I don't know.
I love being on the tri and like hearing the wheels and you're feeling and you're just hitting those turns. It's such a and I don't think you feel like that on a I don't because I don't think you can get your angle on the geometry of a road bike versus that. So all right, it sounds like we've given Brad our analysis of
Lots to chew on.
it doesn't matter is I guess what I'm sensing. So if you get something, make sure you have an aero bar at a minimum, get it fit. The thing I want to say, those tires, like I think that's what's really overlooked. And I personally, there's probably research that contradicts what I'm about to say, but I think that the tires, the wheel set makes almost more of a difference than the bike itself. And consequently, that's where I've spent more of my money on the hardware is on a wheel set. But that's going to be another $2,000, $3,000, no matter what bicycle you get. I mean, that would be my one recommendation is if you have, get a disc brake wheel set now, because that's the most likely that's probably he has disc brakes, but if not, that's what the future is. And I'm now in the conundrum of having a rim brake system in my bike my coach. I did an FTP test on Wednesday, which, by the way, the finger prick hurt more than the crash in the Alps. But I guess I didn't have as much. Have you done a FTP test like that?
Not with lactate tests at the end of it.
Okay. Well, it's throughout. It's every 3 minutes. You get. They pull your blood. But first thing he said is he asked if my wife's got me my Christmas present yet, and I said no. And coach said, "Well, it's time to get a new bike." And like I was like, "Oh, that's awesome! I'm really excited about that." So that it just so happened that I'd been researching bikes and came across all these articles about should you get a road bike or a tri bike for beginners and stuff. And the issue is my tri bike's rim, my wheels are rim. So a new bike most likely means a whole new wheel set, which is going to double the whole cost of the endeavor. And then when I was doing additional research, like, all right, so let's say you do want a tri bike, you got to figure out which tri bike. And mine is still coming up on the best lists for beginner tri bikes, even though it's old technology and including a rim set, precisely because it's has such a good price point. It's still reasonably priced. It's like good value, I guess, is what they say. So with that, it's like I already have a decent bike then. So my upgrade is going to cost what, $6,000 plus the wheels. So I'm looking at a $10,000 investment. I don't think I can swing this endeavor is not T3 and the Zach Tri show as a business enterprise is not profiting enough to swing a $10K investment.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'll ever get to a point where I'm willing to put $10,000 into a thing that I can easily crash and destroy.
That's such a good point. I crashed so much.
Whether that's bikes or automobiles or what have you, if it can fall apart due to my negligence and ignorance, then I'm not spending that much.
Well, I was hoping we'd get to see your pup. How's is that the same one but without the headset now?
She's doing very, very poorly. She's destroyed her back paws. She has like no fur left. We had to buy a new cone because she actually reached her paws through the cone. So now we have a longer cone, and then she's able to rip off the cone. So I had to tie the cone to her collar, and it's just a whole thing. It's a mess. That's a whole podcast episode on its own.
All right.
So we can we'll hop onto the tri questions. I think that's
okay. So
the dog fur.
Brad, I'm sorry we didn't give you a definitive response. I think you should get a tri bike, and anyone else who tells you otherwise is lying. Carrie's saying if you're just testing it out, definitely use the bike you have and buy a pair of aero bars and stick it on there. Am I summarizing? Okay.
That is the answer. You're correct.
All right. That's the correct answer, he says. Okay. My strongest event will be the run. It's a good thing that's last. Should I overtrain for the swimming? What say you, Mr. Ritter?
So one thing that stands out to me and that is my strongest run event will be the run.
Yeah.
The thing that concerns me here
Yep.
is you're thinking about it sport by sport, and that is
Yep.
not what we do.
Yep.
Um, so the first piece of advice is to not neglect the fact that you are going to bike and then run. So step number one, make sure you're practicing your bike then run. So brick rides at least once a week. Some people like to say do it every bike ride. I'm not in that realm of people. I do it as often as I can, as it makes sense. Um, so that's point number one. Point number two, overtraining on swimming. It kind of depends on your goal. If you're really just looking to finish, you need to make sure you can accomplish at least that 1900 meters in a pool, at least. Ideally, you are training,
In
doing
one
sessions.
go, like 38 laps,
Well,
or can you stop?
he's for 70.3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like to be able to do the 1900 nonstop, just because like there's a certain mental aspect of it. When you're talking about swimming in open water, there's such a psychology there. Like even Lionel Sanders had a panic attack in the water, right? Like
Well,
it can happen to people who are very experienced, and that helps to me
yeah.
alleviate a little bit of that anxiety. So I like it from that aspect. As far as training, don't go do 1900 meter swim sessions. Like that's not a training plan. That's just swimming. Um, but feel comfortable being able to accomplish that in a pool.
So if he did like 400s and a 200 and a 100 and got to 1900, if I'm doing my math right, that would be, you would consider that to be, all right, he is in swim shape for the 70.3.
It's in the conversation.
All right. Okay.
Like I wouldn't say definitively like yeah you're good to go because you can stop at a wall and relax a bit and catch your breath. A little harder to do out in the water.
Yeah.
So for me, I like to see people be able to do that continuously, and
Continuous.
ideally
So he
get
needs to get
enough.
into open water and swim
Ideally, yeah.
1900 continuously. Yeah.
Ideally, you don't want to do that too close to race day, in my opinion. Give it a little bit of time in between because you still want to be able to actually do your swim training, which to me is intervals, working on
Mm-hmm.
longer distance intervals while also working some speed work to kind of improve your ability and your technical skills. But yeah, the first mistake I made was when I was training for my quote unquote first 70.3. Like that was my swim session. Is I just swam 1900 meters, and it got me absolutely nowhere. Um, you don't build up speed, you don't build up technique, you exhaust yourself, you build bad form. It's not a good way to go
All
about it.
it is at that point is mentally like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm not gonna, I can do it. And that, I mean, that's a huge hurdle, I think, for many folks in the swim portion is like, can I make it to the end? Am I going to be grabbing the lifeboats or what? So I get
yeah.
that for sure. I hate doing long distances in the pool. I think that's very difficult. I thought you picked up on something I too was picking up on with this, seemingly like I just need to get to the run and then I'm happy. But should I overtrain for the swimming because I suck? I think most people, swimming is their first, um, their least strong discipline. Given, I mean, although I think there's like 6 or 7 disciplines to a triathlon, so maybe there are other aspects from it which are the least good at. But the swimming, everyone has an issue with. My coach is very clear: do not overtrain the swim. I don't even know how you would overtrain the swim because it has such a low likelihood of injury that overtraining is kind of
I'd, s-
impossible. But
I'd say the main risk you run is just fatigue that hurts the rest of your workouts. Like if you're
mhm.
doing a 400-meter swim and you have a run that day, like you just wasted a bunch of energy that's not going to
Yep,
translate to race day, and then
yeah,
you messed
that's a
up your
real good
run
point.
by burning too much in the swim.
It gets in the way of both their training. Like
Yeah,
my first training plan without a coach, they had me swimming 3 times a week, and now my coach has me doing it twice a week, and he's really vocal about like, I'd rather you focus on running or biking than swimming. Uh, I'd rather that time be used for those other two. You're not gonna win or lose a race at this skill set based off of your swim, and all you need to do is just get out of the water not feeling like death, like you can keep going. So um, I guess with that, I would say no need to overtrain swimming. Don't unduly focus on swimming for your training, but you also need to be aware that it's 3 separate disciplines. I'm not sure why Brad thinks running is his strongest event. I think he could use some improvement on his runs, given his Strava data I've been watching. Maybe next time he'll show up and defend himself with that respect.
I'm sure he's
But
doing just fine.
what would be just fine to
Yeah.
you? I'm just curious. Yeah. I know we're never going to be on the same page here today, but I am curious. What is a good, what do you think of going into your 70.3? What do you need to be putting down as far as good times for runs?
I mean, it's for like me personally, I can answer that. Like I'm trying to get sub 9 per mile. Like that's kind of
Yeah.
where my head's at. Um, Beyond that, like for any given person, I think it's completely dependent. But kind of a non-answer. But yeah.
I know. I was just like, man, I can't get a strong answer out of you except for you don't need a tri bike.
Well, it's such a complicated sport, right? Like if you are an elite level swimmer, of course it's going to be much harder for you to match somebody who ran cross country for 10 years, right? Like you can't expect to be a swimmer for 10 years, transition triathlon, and run as fast as somebody who ran for 10 years. If you have that expectation, you're just going to be bummed out and you're going to hate the sport. So like you got to accentuate your abilities, focus on your weaknesses and try to improve them, but also keep in mind like our bodies are built different, our skill sets are coming from different backgrounds. There's not just a you should swim this fast, bike this fast, run this fast,
Mm-hmm.
because that would be a very very boring sport if that was the case. That's my take on
That must be why I'm bored.
it. I mean, I can swim better than I can run. You know, like I'm better at certain things, and I'm just trying to make everything improve in a certain way. And I accept the fact that maybe my run game won't be in the same echelon as my bike or swim might be able to get
Mm-hmm.
to. But
Mm-hmm.
the dangers of being a 210, 6'3" guy or whatever I weigh these days.
I would have said the one issue I kind of had with this strongest event would be the run. Is what I always think is going to be my strongest is the run, and I never come close to putting down my training times in the run at all. And when I look at like comparatively to others in each discipline, my bike is almost always what I'm the best at. Although in Newtown, my swim of the 3 was the best ranked, which is very surprising because as soon as I got out of the water, coach was there. He was helping everybody out. He was volunteering. First thing he said to me was, you might have heard it. He said it later is, we got to work on your swim. So, and then I was still like second in my age group for a swim. So go figure. All right, moving on. And then we have 5 questions, but I think we only have time to finish 3 here. So, do you normally wear the same outfit for all 3 events? When do you change?
So yeah, when you get out of the lake, immediately completely disrobe.
Yep.
What typically happens is everyone gets completely naked in between the lake or this body of water and their bike, and that's just the way the sport is. You're just nude for a moment of time in public, in front of family and friends and everyone. Um, so no, I'm lying again. And in my experience, there's kind of 2 routes. There's the people that like to do tri suits that are one pieces, and there's people I think you're one of these. You like the tri bottoms, and you swim
Yep.
in just the bottom, and then throw in a jersey on the bike. That's that's the pretty common procedure. If you're going to a full length, you can actually hop into a tent and change in some manner. I've never done it or seen it, so I don't really know. But
Do the Ironman 70.3s have a transition tent or just the
I don't
full
think
distance?
70.3s do. I think it's only
Okay.
poles.
Yeah. Well, none of us, neither you or me, have done an Ironman 70.3. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So I guess, but yeah, you're right. In the full distance, they have changing tents. Like you can change completely out of one thing to another. I would say do not change. Don't plan to change,
Yeah.
and get the bottoms that have a little less padding, and you can also run in them. Also, and then as far as the swim, it depends on the temperature on what I wear for the swim. So I usually try to get a speed suit or a wetsuit, and then I always have my top on one race I did, I think 2 races I did when it wasn't wetsuit legal and I didn't have a speed suit. I did go topless. But then I think now I'm wearing the tops more often I think they actually are a little more streamlined than I don't shave my chest or anything. And apparently that does have a drag effect. So the shirt is a little more aero in the water, streamlined, I guess. I don't know what's the water equivalent for aero. And
Hydro.
all right. And it speeds me up, I think, just nominally through that. And then, though, it saves the time and transition because it's very difficult, especially if it's a long sleeve, to get that on while you're wet. Because that material is so tight to begin with, and the water just clings to you. So it eats up a lot of time, I think, trying to clean that up and get it.
My last Newtown race, I got tangled up on my friggin' jersey, and I had to ask the volunteer. Like I was completely tangled. I'm like, I need help. I lost so much time. I was so mad. But I say one thing to note is make sure you're getting a tri-suit or kit or whatever that is properly fitted. Because you mentioned the suit can improve your drag, but if it's not a well fitted suit, it's going to hurt your drag.
It'll be damaging. Yeah.
Not only in the water but on the bike. So if you're wearing a loose flappy shirt, they're going to do a little bit of damage. Again, talking about somebody who's trying to finish a race, don't stress about it if it's a loose shirt. But if you are buying new gear, be mindful that it fits.
Yep.
And don't go nude.
Don't go nude. Don't change. And most races have rules that will disqualify you if you are nude in public. So
I feel like I've heard this happening though, like an off-rain race of somebody like literally like wrapping a towel around themselves and then changing the bottom. And like that is just not worth the risk at all.
No, it's not. And if it's even shorter, I mean the shorter the race, the more important it is not to change because of the transition making such a large percentage of your time in that respect. So all right, so like I said, there's 2 more questions. How do you pack your triathlon bag? And I'm finding 20-week training plans. Is that the common plan length wise? I have 44 weeks left. Figured I'd do the 20 weeks training twice. The first 20 just to get the work in. The second trying actually to the time, effort, speed, etc. I guess I should have proofread these before just copying and pasting them up here. But you think we got a few moments to answer one of these 2 questions? You got a preference?
Second speed answer for you. How do you pack your triathlon bag? I just throw stuff in it. For me personally, I get super nervous, so I actually have a checklist on my phone. I say exactly what pocket the item is in, and then before I leave, I can run through it all.
That's cool. I have a checklist, but I definitely don't have what bag or pocket it's in.
If I don't do that, every time we're pulling out, I'm like, oh my God, do I have my speed sensor? Where the hell is it? Now I can just say, okay, it's in the side pocket. I know it's in there because I wrote down where I put it.
I wonder if this is more of a question about like, how do I, especially given the second one about like, do I change? Like in transition, what do I do? Like, how do I find my shoes? How do I pack my bag so my shoes can be found? Brad, help us out. Give us a little more information.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's something I even watch YouTube videos about how to pack your triathlon bag and how to handle transitions. And then Ironman get even more tricky because of they giving you the specific bags you have to put crap in. Them. So yeah, I hate them too. So I think in that sense, it'll probably kind of answer itself. I am surprised that he didn't ask about like what gear other than the bike he needs. So the one thing I drew over here, which I'm sure no one has an idea of what it is this is I think the race bib with the belt. So you have your run number and then your belt. I think most people, newbies, don't even think to do that. And I find having it on your race bib, run bib on your belt, and you just put the belt on is so much quicker than trying to either put safety pins on in the middle of transition or...
People do that in transition?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how people get there other than using the belt. I don't know how people get on. You put it on before the race and then it gets all torn up in the swim. Like, I don't know how, if you don't have a belt, I don't know how people get their run bib on.
I threw a jersey on. I pinned it to the jersey when I went into T2 or T1. So I don't know. I don't know. Okay, speed answer. So what's the next one? 20-week plans. You have 44 weeks. So for me personally, I would need a reason to do that training session twice. Otherwise, it just feels very open-ended. So for me, what I would do is do the 20-week plan and essentially do a race. Doesn't have to be the real race for me. Like I think I got sick or something like that, and so I couldn't do the actual race when I wanted to. Yeah, I was in the hospital and all that crap. So, anyways, I instead I did a swim in the pool, and then I did my bike on a trainer, and then I did the run. And then it was storming all day, so I couldn't actually do the run because it was lightning and like it was terrible. So instead, I did the swim and then the bike, and then the next day I did the run as a PR attempt, basically.
Okay.
So to me, doing the training plan, treating something at the end of some sort of test of fitness, ideally doing the race distance, and then
Yeah.
either start it over or find one that is a similar length and try something new.
Yeah, I hate that idea of I'm gonna do the same plan twice. Once just to do it, and then once to like focus on time, effort, speed, etc. I mean that you're wasting 20 weeks, in my opinion, if you're just gonna do it just to go through the motions. I think that's a poor plan. I think you should be trying to hit your numbers in the first half. Each plan should have built in you sort of your foundation building, and then whatever there's a hierarchy of training. So you got your foundation, and then like your speed, and then your peak, and then your taper, and so on. So you need to always be hitting those, attempting to hit those numbers, and your numbers should be accurate. So if they're aspirational numbers that are out of being attainable, that's an issue. Don't focus then, but you need to get those time. And if he's doing something like I did, you do some test runs to get like what's your average speed for running, some test swims, what's your average speed for swimming, and then your test power and stuff for your biking. So it's somewhat accurate in that respect. So always try to do it. 44 weeks, I think, is a long time for a 70.3. That's how I think that's longer than I trained for my full distance.
Yeah, I mean, ideally you're doing some racing in between there, whether that's long distance, short distance, or whatever. If it's your first race, ideally you can get some Olympics or something like that in there as race
Oh yeah,
prep.
that's a good point. So I kind of glossed over that with your response, but yeah, I definitely get a sprint in, get an Olympic in, and you don't want your A race, in this case his 70.3, to be the only race he's done, especially if he's never truly done a triathlon. It's going to help out immensely. The swim part, I think you even said it when describing. Oh, you said Lionel, I think, even like can panic in the open water. The more often you get swimming in race time, in real race, the better you will be. You won't be so panicky, and that will help keep you calm. You don't want to lose the race in the swim. You can't win it, but you don't want to lose it at that point. So, cool stuff. So we powered through all 5 of his questions. I'm sure he'll have more as he proceeds. Maybe he'll actually join us. I really wanted to get him to bring up his training peaks. I wanted to see what plan he had and follow his progress as he goes, because I think this is a pretty intriguing idea. And I'm sure he's going to have more tech questions. He didn't even bring up a power meter. That's probably going to be another element of debate between us. So we'll see what comes up. But any final, what's the one thing that you would tell a newbie, Brad or otherwise, they're just starting training for a triathlon? What's your one final tip?
Oh man. Don't take it too seriously. Like, don't go spend 5,000 on a tri bike. Don't go buy the best wheels, the best power meter. Just find a way to try the sport out and enjoy it. And yeah.
All right, enjoy the sport. That's our takeaway. That's going to be our catch line, I think, from all.
Find a way to thrive in triathlon.
Find a way to thrive. Enjoy the sport.
Ha.
That's real good. I never have an outro plan, so that's what's going to be. What do you say? Find a way to thrive?
Yeah.
All right, find a way to thrive. We'll see you next time.